Parts that'll drive you mad is, see, for example, I put that thermostat clamp on there so I can slide on the hose, and then I'm anticipating that that's the best place for my pliers or whatever tool I use to put that back. It's a bigger clamp. I have to use the long handle ones. But it's almost every time you put it in, it's going to be wrong. You're going to have wished it was somewhere else. So you're just going to have to work through that one. So I'm not going to... So see here, we got to make a note of this lower rad hose, because where I had stored the clamp up here, it had really bent this out of shape, or it was out of shape. So if we get a leak from there, we know we have to replace that hose. Actually, fortunately, I have this one brand new, but we're still not going to put it on, okay? This is another test, okay? I do have this hose brand new, but we're going to use the old one so that you guys can see how mangled and old of an EPDM at 174K of Canadian driving can resurvive and possibly last if it's put back properly. So, what was I going to say here? The difficulties of this stuff, sure, German repair shops have special tools and they work on them every day, so they develop tricks. But those sheaths that the Germans put, and those odd shapes that I've talked about in the curves that they have in their way they manufacture their coolant hoses, this is just German engineering snobbery at this point, okay? They have made these things to just work perfectly millimetrically, which is respectable, but there is zero care for technician ease to repair them. And a lot of people won't believe what I say, but I guarantee you vehicle companies, I'll make videos of this on the future, but I don't know, you got to try to have a positive vibe on the internet and not talk bad about car companies. But yo, planned obsolescence, for those of you who were born yesterday, they do not care for ease of working. That clamp move back there is again up against the sheath. Like there's 6 different factors here that are going to cause problems for you. And the reason aftermarket suppliers or shops or whatever, you don't want to believe what they say if you want to work on it yourself, is, okay, I'm mixing up my words, but the point here is this is tough work, okay, to do properly and not cause more problems, because the slightest frustration in here and you can tear wires, and then your car will be electronically totaled in 10 seconds if you can't figure it out. That's enough on that one. Let me put these back, figure it out. Just wanted to document this odd hose, how it's sat over time, and we'll get back to it. And to help maybe some of you take more value in my channel, that I take these risks for the channel and myself, I'll take it out of that stupid bag because it's not filming well, but I do have a lot more of these hoses brand new, but I want to test old stuff to see what you guys can get away with if you don't have all the money in the world to spend on these, because I told you some of the prices are going to shock you out of your mind for certain things that should not be even 1/100th of the price that they are sold for in technical terms of what the manufacturing and product and time went into everything is for the piece of craps that they sell for certain prices. So there is the hose, okay? That's this hose here. I'm not going to replace the new one, but my God, I'm happy I opened it because you guys get to see this terrible German manufacturing. Look at that in there. Look at that, and it's way worse down there, but I don't have 6,000 hands or a helper to show you guys how badly metal sharded the inside of these brand new hoses straight from Germany are. Pathetic. Yo, getting this stupid hose contraption in will have you re-questioning your life. I've been trying under, under everything. I'm gonna get it eventually, but I'm gonna start saying very YouTube unfriendly stuff soon on screen, so we're gonna just leave it. I'm just gonna figure it out. Just take pictures is all I can really emphasize here. That's it. Okay, before I tear my back on the stupid garage door, you see that L-shaped hose there? That's going to throw you off because it goes like this in its final motion. And you're going to keep thinking, why is it like this? Which line does it go over? Which one doesn't? Everything's tight in there. You don't want to pinch your power steering lines. But I'm going to go back to marker 147, I think in coolant leak part 7. That's going to show me where this hose runs exactly, where it's under or over those. Okay, so my leave the pick inside trick worked very well. Okay, no hands on the pick. The pick just rests on the hardest to reach part of the hose because the hose doesn't jump on easily. And then you pull it with both hands and you slide the pick out as the hose goes over that thermostat housing thing. And again, I had to move the clamp because when you, with the way I had the clamp in that previous clip, I don't know, 2 minutes ago in the video that I showed you, I had to move it again because you just can't anticipate where that clamp is going to sit for some reason, okay? Or maybe you can and I can't. So there is what helped get that hose on and will help with the other ones. So my saving grace was that, see that's the part of the coolant hose right in the center of the screen. It's not focusing on the right thing. Okay, there you go. That center of your screen at 147 in the other video, it has better reference points, but that will eventually help you, okay? See, the L-shaped hose is still hanging all over the place. We'll get that in. That's not easy. That's easy enough. That'll be the next step. But what I want to say is because I pulled service position up further, the lower rad hose, you see there, it doesn't get to my rad yet. I have to, again, re-lower my rad. I have to push my service position back towards the car a bit more before I put that one in. That one there went on perfectly, that hose there to center your screen. There is no line to align jack shit. So I might have to readjust that too before I have to remember to do that in case the other ones have odd twists in them. But the reason I'm going to come back to this hose before the end is I have to do the belt tensioner, and doing that one person is already going to be a bear of a task. And I have other things. I'm going to install the coolant crossover pipe. I want to have the most hand space possible under there. So this lower rad hose, come back and do it later if you have done the same thing as me. So we'll do the upper one, and we will adjust these again if necessary later if this one for some reason attaches in a weird way. But bent nose pliers for this one because it's going to be closer to the car. Right now it'll be foolishly looking like it's going to be easier than it is. So that hose clamp there is on the auxiliary upper rad hose. Put my service position bolt back in, but there were no lines to align with what was on the upper rad, so because the hose is old. So another reference point of if we have a failure, a place we would need to check, because we cannot confirm the correct twist on the hose right now. But I've put it in by feel well, I think. So there's gonna be new hardware for this, for mounting the tensioner. Now that spring tensioner, compared to those two holes, it's a huge gap. Without having a vise in here to reinstall that, I might have doomed myself, but we're going to try that afterwards. It looks like this, I mean, this definitely goes behind this, so you want to do this one first. You could maybe sneak in that end there, but if that metal plate doesn't fit, yes, this I test fitted this right now. This has to go on after this. Maybe not. Okay, because I just held this in place and looked at where that was. So to be on the safe side, throw your new O-rings on that crossover pipe. Most important thing when I was draining stuff is you want to give your final tighten to this washer, drain plug washer here. And no, Audi does not sell that separately, that washer. It comes with that whole piece, so you have to reuse your old one. So I'm going to throw on the crossover pipe, and then we'll deal with this beast of a belt tensioner, what I have done here, to reassemble it if it's possible, because I need the car. See, new hardware again is good because you see I might have to take this apart again. If my old bolts break or something, that's like bang your head in the wall time, right? So I'm gonna reinstall this, and that's gonna be like my vise. And then if I can do it one-handed and alone, I will pull with the breaker bar the tensioner and reinstall my two 13mm bolts from the way I took it out in the other series, which a lot of people aren't a fan of, but hey, I do it because I've got some hack DIYer in me. And yeah, that's what I'm trying to say is if it doesn't work, I might have to take it out and deal with getting that tensioner back on the roller, whatever the hell this contraption is called, outside of the car. So I think so I'm going to put that crossover pipe with its new O-rings, a little bit of silicone grease on the O-rings so that they don't tear when you put them back, and torque down that drain plug. Alright, see you guys later. So I have reinstalled the block side black O-ring for the behind the belt tensioner side of this. That bolt to the way left there, I don't think I ordered it. Those two there, I do have them brand new. They're over near the car. Those are going to be new. This is old. I don't know if this was even on the parts diagram or if it comes with the whole crossover tube. So Good luck with that when you're ordering parts. Good luck with the process of ordering parts for these. And again, so that my work doesn't go unnoticed, even though it's nothing close to those blaster cabinets and stuff people have, dry ice, I don't know what they use. I've seen the videos, you've seen them. I spent a lot of time with the brass wire brush and brake cleaner and everything cleaning this crossover tube because it had a ton of oil on it, and it will help us determine future oil leaks and where they had been coming from. So do clean everything, even though it's not going to look perfect, because it's perfect enough for you to determine other oil leaks and problems your car has, which is all I ever cared about. But in the future, I might have to do that clean boy stuff that every other channel does eventually, because that's what the internet likes. Even though people with a brain know that this is far more than enough clean, and it's under the car and no one ever sees it. Okay, I'll stop ranting, I'll put this together, and that's it. Now, just a bit of common sense so that you don't have to do and undo this. That green O-ring pops right into place, okay, but do the two, see those are two brand new screws for the other side, the tensioner side. Do those first and just loosely, I'll loosely put all three in, but tighten those two before you tighten the one single alone one on the water pump side. And H5 will retighten the coolant drain plug on the crossover pipe. And also do that once everything's tightened so that you can actually tighten it. Don't do it outside of the car, don't do it inside of the car. You'll have the best touch when something is solidly attached to something so that you don't go too tight or too loose. Okay, so coolant crossover pipe, crisscross pattern in terms of the 3 bolts, in terms of tightening them, but that short T30, socketed T30, and then the little H5 for the drain plug worked just great to tighten them. Took a bit of patience. Try to get those double the ones with the new bolts on that thing side over there, the tensioner side. Do them double index finger first, as far in as you can, and then do the last final turns with your mini T30. It'll work just fine. But I don't mean like that in your screen. Okay, so that's on. That's good. Let's go and see if this tensioner, I can figure it out. So what do we have here? M12 with some bolt I can't remember, 213 millimeters that you guys probably didn't take off if you took it off properly, the belt tensioner, and not in my style. You did it with 2 people, not 1 person. Go back and watch the video on the removal if you want to find out what I'm talking about. So these 3 bolts are longer, 1 is shorter. There they are, brand new. And if you guys remember anything about the intake manifold bolt snapping thing, I will never reuse an Audi bolt if I have the option of using a new one. Plus, I might have to remove it a few times, and breaking one of these, headbanging time. But, okay, let me see what I do here. Yeah, if you're new to the series, really go watch my removal video, the first few minutes, because I talk about all the mistakes I've made. So this M12 never ever needed to be removed, and I stated that in that video too. So I'm just going to install that right here on the table, and we'll see what I do with the rest. So I might still have a bear of a task putting the belt on, but on a note of positive, I put the tensioner back and I just twisted it back with a normal 3/8 ratchet, and that's going to be enough for me to get my 13 millimeters and my spring in comfortably, then compress it, then put my belt on. So this is a good thing. That piece at the top rotates very easily with just a 3/8 ratchet to put your 213s back in case you've done it the way I have. Okay, so you guys know there's another 13 millimeter bolt up there. So with that ratchet there, you back and forth it, the top one, thread it in by hand and tighten it. Okay, then this one is trickier. Okay, I put the 13 millimeter wrench on it right now, but before you even put a wrench on it, you're gonna have to use that ratchet with your left hand and slightly, just hair movements, up and down until this bolt is fully aligned. Then you thread it in by hand when the bolt hole is aligned. But definitely do the top one first, because this one is going to be more how would I say this? The second bolt is obviously going to have limitations once the first one is in, even to a degree. And you got to put the top one in first, okay? The second one, the top one would be impossible. It'd be impossible to do it the other way around in service position, okay? You could do it the front clip off. You'll get this when I'm saying it. Just use your ratchet with your left hand to move the tensioner up and down until this bolt hole is aligned, and you can smoothly put it in by hand. Do not force this bolt so it doesn't break or cross thread or strip, but I was able to do it. Now I'm going to tighten this down, and then we're going to go to the more difficult part of the the belt, where I probably will need a second person, but I'll let you guys know what happens there. The top one went in fine way before. This bottom one, I've been putting it in, and it's not bottoming out on the hex part, and it's like when you cross thread a bolt. And I might remove that bolt and try it again, but I might have royally effed up here somehow. So, stay tuned. Okay, that was just a scare. I just had to keep tightening it. Okay, it was just very loose. Now, what I'm going to do for the top one, to tighten it, you can't get the wrench in there, so I have to get a 13mm on a ratchet and tighten that down. Fully tighten it down. So it's been a crisscross pattern between the two, but don't get afraid, you're not cross-threading it like I said I did. And once I tighten these, we will get onto the belt. So goes the world of garage wrenching. You collect all your 3/8 tools, you move up to 1/2 inch, you start losing your 1/2 inch, you start losing your 3/8, and before you know it, you're back to the early days. Everything you have left is 1/4 inch sockets. So I'm using a reducer to a short 13, and this is correct size for my setup here, which is 3 bricks, AC O-rings, and an ATV hitch worth of service position pushed forward to be able to get this in there and comfortably tighten that top 13mm bolt for the belt tensioner. Okay, so I've been talking about that ratcheting 13mm wrench on the bottom one. Just use a socket. Even my 2 final power turns on that bottom 13 I did with the one on the left. That crap strips bolts, and just 13mm socket is better to use of about that size. Now that M12 bolt that I talked about on the table a bit more, I tightened it just by grabbing it with my hand as tight as I could. So I'm going to get that M12 in here and I'm going to tighten that again. But here's the only place, even though I'm 99% sure you never need to touch that M12, if you do end up doing it the style that I did in the belt tensioner removal video a while back, it's about a 37-minute video. If you end up doing it worst case scenario style like that, I had that M12 tightened right now when I moved the piece back with the 3/8 ratchet in the past couple minutes. So you shouldn't need to ever remove that, but if you see you can't follow the steps I'm doing, it doesn't hurt to remove that M12 bolt is what I'm trying to say. So take what you will from that, and I'm going to tighten that M12 a bit more now that everything is in on the car, and we will continue with the belt. Got 2 more ratchet straps. I'm going to put them up higher on the freezer there, because what the bottom one is still good because it does that initial range of motion where, see, the problem was with it catching, this whole contraption catching on to sensitive components in service position here. So now that I've got it to this degree with this strap, the other one is just going to go a hair above it, and it's going to start pulling on like a 30-degree, 45-degree angle upwards, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, we'll see. Okay, you guys didn't see, but I'll show you afterwards. We sacrificed the edge of the freezer here, the paint, so it took this much weight, and on my last ratchet strap pull on the top one, it did, come on Canon, focus in this crucial moment. On the last pull with the top ratchet strap one, it pulled the freezer up the back of it about 1 inch with that much weight and the freezer there. So this can give you a indication of why you'd want to do this job on a lift, or be very strong and have a strong friend to help you. So it lifted up the freezer a bit, and after a bit of struggle underneath, okay, look here, see, we've still got this set up here, both of those pulling the tensioner down with that same bent 3/8 that we were dealing with before. And as you can see, the belt is now on. I pushed it up with both my thumbs from both sides, and the belt is on. We did it. Let's hope the freezer is okay now. This is a triumphant moment. So I put on some safety boots for this part, and I still have my safety glasses on because the release of this stuff, I don't know why Canon's not autofocusing. The release of these two, I just released the top one, okay? And The whole thing just fell out with the ratchet. The belt is still on perfectly fine. Okay, belt is good, good, good. And there's our ratchet. There's our final how it exited. But it fell straight down to the ground. Nothing on service position is damaged. And we are back in business here to continue. So as long as the water pump hex shaft is good, we might be in business when we turn this car on and it doesn't blow up. So I did everything in this by myself, even though I had a helper. The point is, I'm not trying to brag about doing it myself. My channel is geared towards helping the lone DIYer do it themselves, because people don't usually like to help you with car stuff, okay? So that's what it was. All of this setup, all of everything I did and throwing the belt on was done by one person in the end, okay? There was never the need for a second hand. It was nice to have another person here, but the need for a second hand was not required. The important part. Now, damage to the freezer. Tough ass freezer, okay? I'm gonna take all my weights back inside now. The door did not cave at all. And we just, look, all the other edges are completely fine. The only edge that showed a bit of wear on the second ratchet strap was this one buckled a bit. But that's nothing, it's just the paint. The freezer is fine. Just gonna fill that in a bit and paint it and we'll be okay. So this freezer is a legend and it has helped in mechanics a lot in this garage. So now that the belt is on, let's see what happens later. We had that blemish there. I looked at the back. The back is mint. It's more curved at the back. At the bottom there, you can see a little bit of a crack, but it's not as bad. But everything is functioning fine, and this side is completely fine. So I'm not saying all of you are going to have a freezer in this spot, but I mean, if you had more space or you're doing it somewhere, just open the garage in a SUV with a hitch or a car with a hitch. If you can find an angle, you know, put a post in the ground. I don't know. Figure it out. But a point to hold down on. You guys saw that. Okay. So now on to the $1 million O-rings for the secondary coil cooler. How many times I'm going to say this shit? Oil cooler line O-rings. So these are all tightened up. I don't know if they didn't sell the bolts or I forgot to get them. Actually, I think I did get them and they sent me bolts that looked incorrect. Because there's two bolts that I bought and they don't look like they go anywhere on the car from what I've ordered. But they definitely don't look like this. Are they an updated part number? They did say a lot of stuff is updated part numbers, but nah. I'm just going to reuse the old bolts for the oil cooler line O-rings. And there are the new ones. And that, I think, is the tab that used to go, follow me. Remember way down there, that coolant line? That push rivet I found was far better than this one. But we are going to keep the one that I have here on the freezer, because I had stored it for some reason with these. And I mean, that green thing is from just sticking in one of the aux rads. We'll keep this, and if we need a push rivet somewhere, we'll use it. But old bolts, new O-rings. I'm going to put a bit of silicone lube on them so that they slide in there and hopefully don't twist and tear on us. And lots of seals we're putting in. Hopefully nothing leaks when this car starts up. But let me get those replaced. If you really want the tutorial, there is a removal video I made a while ago, and that's very detailed on the exact tools you need. So I'm just going to bang this out, get these in so we can get this car started sooner. Okay, so before we go to the oil cooler lines, there's something interesting there. I mean, the alternator does have a turning point there, but it's not going to be as strong as the engine pulley would be. But I could have used this to roll the belt on, but still, it was just the same. I pushed it up with my hands. This just might make it a bit easier and need less tension if you're doing some crazy style like what I did for the spring tension. This does not replace necessity of spring tension. This just means instead of pushing up with your hands after, you could have someone else or yourself just throw a big ratchet or a breaker bar on that bolt and turn the alternator to roll the belt onto the idler pulley you see there in the center of your screen there. Not idler, sorry, the idler's further up. I mean the belt tensioner pulley. Okay, so you could do that rotational trick there too. Now, coming back to the oil cooler lines here, the top one is in very good condition. I cleaned it all up with brake cleaner. We're ready for the new O-ring. Okay, that's the only time the camera has focused. You see that odd type of corrosion there behind where the O-ring goes on the block side? The bolt still goes all the way up to the block, so that is a bit concerning. I did try to scrape it off with my fingernail, and it seems to be some kind of odd pitting. It's not even really some kind of residue. But I am in no way, shape, or form going to take a pick or a screwdriver to this surface so that things possibly leak. But because I mean, once it gets past that O-ring, it starts leaking anyways. But the weird part here, okay, I think these lines are new because my oil cooler, none of this stuff has rust on it. If you know RS4s, okay, this stuff out here, all of this kind of stuff looks nasty on one that hasn't been done. So I don't know if I'm on original lines and stuff. I really don't know. But those, that pitting or whatever it is, the material, this is another point of if it fails again and we have to get new O-rings again, I wanted to document this because this one does look kind of bad. And if you think about it, it won't focus for shit, okay? We're just going to leave it like this. If it does leak again, if you think about it, even with an O-ring in there, if that pitting is millimetrically off enough when you put the bolt in, it could push the whole contraption around a bit. I don't know, man. I don't really know. It's not a good look, okay? But it's good enough, and that's as good as I could clean it. So I'm going to throw them on, and we have this on the record in case something goes wrong.